Put it on the table. I cut off his zombie takeout.
Hello and welcome to Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie show. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some feedback from Bodo. Actually, once again, Bodo's feedback will run throughout the show. He said, warning, another live tweet of a movie, but this time I'm drinking. I've put Bodo's...
It shows in your notes.
I've put his comments in the chat, so this time we can both read them as the show progresses. Also got a news story. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Grease prequel Summer Loving in the works with John August writing. The studio's division Paramount Players has put into development a Grease prequel titled Summer Loving.
That doesn't make any sense.
And has tapped John August, the veteran writer behind such films as Big Fish and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, to pen the script.
That makes even less sense.
The prequel, I kind of get, maybe.
No, how is there Isn't the whole... Okay, I'm not that familiar with the Grease story, but isn't the big deal that the two of them meet in that first one?
Well, no, but isn't the whole point that they had a thing over the summer before?
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, I think they had a thing. I've actually never seen it, but I think they had a thing over.
They had a little past, but I don't think they actually...
Like that summer they had a thing. And then the first one I think was the aftermath. I don't know where the second...
You've made me think about this way more than I want.
But the interesting part is that the guy who wrote Big Fish, which is a wonderfully surreal movie, Albert Finney and Obi-Wan, I can't think of his real name.
Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor are in it. Great movie. And Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, obviously the Burton version.
So right, why would that writer want to write...
Do a Grease movie? That's what makes it really fucking interesting. Because I would not go anywhere near this if it weren't for him.
I mean, it's the sequel is in our wheelhouse. Obviously, the first one is not. But yeah, the sequel, for just being that bad and that infamous...
I mean, like I said, I've never seen either of them, but I know the sequel by its reputation.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 1971, The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. We've been putting this one off for quite a while. I think since 2017, I want to say.
Oh, man, I probably brought it up even earlier than that.
Yeah, probably, but I think that's the first time we planned to do it.
We just kind of... And I think this came up because we brainstormed, and I just remembered movies I saw as a kid and stuff from like the 70s.
Right.
And yeah, it took me a while to even remember what it was called.
And then for some reason, I thought it was a Western.
But actually, the only reason why I thought remember what it was called is because of Jerry Orbach. If it wasn't for him, this would have been forgotten altogether.
And of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by cliches and stereotypes. They aren't actually jokes.
And also brought to you by professional mourners for those truly stereotypical occasions. All right, so we've got they cheat us by talking about a mob war, but they seem to be working together. You've got the younger mobster who is still kissing the ring of the Godfather.
The apprentice is out to kill the master.
Right. And so the master is also wants to kill the apprentice. But yet they don't. Yet none of them do. But
they try.
I thought this was much more of a recurring bit in the movie because it starts with after the Godfather's morning routine, he sends his poor wife out to go start his car, and just in case anyone's messed with it, they pray that the car actually starts and there's no bomb. It's safe, and he goes. For some reason, I thought that recurred throughout the movie where...
It's bookended, so that's probably why it seemed like a running gag.
But I thought, they had tested it a few times, first. and then the end, of course, which is the only scene I actually remembered from this film
Wow.
was that final scene. And laughing my head off as like what 6 or 7 year old when I saw it. um, so uh, I'm trying to remember what the first defense was, why they wanted to. But anyway, he gives him a chance. That's right. The young punk wants their share of the action. The older Godfather is leaving portions of the outfit to his kids. So the young punk goes in there to try to get his own piece of the action. I mean, they're the guys working the outfit. They should get more of the action than his kids. So they're given this chance to host a cycling event, which is a really weird aspect.
Very 70s.
I mean, there's a source novel maybe that was a part of that they
That's
were
the funny
staying
thing.
faithful to.
Yeah, this is based on an actual guy. It's based on a novel by Jimmy Breslin by the same name, which was about a gangster named Joe Gallo.
Right. And also Gallo, I think, is the guy that they sing about in Copacabana, getting shot. Who one of the last people to see him alive, Jerry Orbach. They were hanging out together in the Copacabana the night he got shot.
Incidentally, Jerry Orbach is the young punk in this.
Yes,
and I don't know how old he was when the movie was made. He does not look young.
No, he doesn't. But anyway, we're more about Jerry Orbach after the plot summary. So yeah, they bring in this whole international crew to run this bike race. For some reason, they keep them in. They put them in circus cages. None of this makes sense. This is you could. I mean, they weren't trying to be absurd, I don't think, but yet they were.
I think they were trying at times.
You think they were trying at times?
The whole narrator thing. The newscaster, that was deliberately absurd.
And by the way, almost the same exact way the Jackie Gleason movie began, only they weren't testifying to Congress, but watching on TV the news reports of the mob.
Skidoo, which we did earlier this year.
Yes. You're right. I forgot the name of the movie entirely. But this whole thing is a bust, this cycling tour, because they, I guess they didn't move the motor pool they had in this arena, which wasn't there before the first time they came in. But for some reason, there was this whole line of cars there, and nobody decided to say anything until there was an entire crowd that showed up to watch the race.
That was the first what the fuck moment for me. Because you had, was it Paul Benedict, the guy who played the butler on the Jeffersons, or the doorman on the Jeffersons, with a fake arm.
Yes. What the fuck was that? There had to have been some serious drugs involved putting this together. But anyway, you don't come up with that over a cup of coffee, as Eric Idle would say. One of the cyclists from Italy, stays behind, though. He decides to steal the clothes of a priest and
steal just about everything else that's not nailed down in the movie.
Yes. He steals. He has all sorts of airline stuff. When he's in the hotel room, he clears out the hotel room for everything. Anytime there's something where they're handing out food, he's probably my first LOL moment of the movie was when he tried to sample ketchup.
Yeah. And just before then, he's pouring a bowl of something into his jacket pocket.
Yes.
I could have swore it was soup. My first thought, he's pouring soup into his pocket. It turned out to be nuts.
Yeah, that's what it was. But right, when the girl looks back at him and she's like, no, and he's just like, oh, yeah, no.
When he tasted the soup, the ketchup.
So his story is weird because it doesn't really like, intertwine until they get to. For some reason, people believe he isn't actually a priest. The Godfather believes he's a priest, and they decide they're going to use him as their in to get the Godfather to finally assassinate him.
There's kind of two movies going on.
There
There's
are,
there's this slapstick mob movie, and then there's this romantic drama about a thief and the daughter of a crime boss or the sister of a crime boss who hook up and eventually run into some problems.
and oddly enough, that is the funnier part of the movie. That's the weird thing. You would think if you put that on paper, oh man, the romantic part is going to completely drag this screwball comedy down. When in actuality, the Robert De Niro steals this movie.
Oh, he does steal the movie.
So it happens. But anyway, so they decide to. He's the in. He's gonna take confession from him, and they're gonna kill him there or kidnap him. I think it was the plan, right? And then get money out of him, and they were gonna move on that way. But of course, that goes. No need to like spoil it, but of course, it's going south.
Everything goes sideways.
So I'm trying to remember. They get into a fight with the meter maid out front for some reason. Despite the guys at the bar,
I think they were
watching,
just trying to stall her to keep any kind of law enforcement out of the way, or to kind of not
yeah.
stall her, but get rid of her to get any law enforcement out of the way.
And the guy that's supposed to knock out the help takes a while to do it, but he does eventually. Even though they're watching him make the Mickeys in front of them, which was really weird too.
Well, he brought them down to the mat underneath, so they couldn't exactly see it.
But I mean, he was still like right in front. Like, when do you put a screwdriver? It's just vodka and orange juice.
Yeah, it shouldn't take
when you see something with a dropper.
Well, and even if they didn't see that, it took like 5 minutes to make a screwdriver. It's just two things.
Right. Oh, that's right. The gun blows up in his hand. And so it's a miracle. He's going to reward De Niro for this miracle.
When they try to assassinate the boss, the gun blows up.
But the thing that happens, of course, is the police get involved, and because the mayor is on their back, and they have this high-profile bust. We're on that later. And they deport poor Robert De Niro. And
because he decides he wants to save Angela, the girlfriend.
Yeah, rather than testifying against them. And hilarity ensues. And
I'm going to start off with, if you left out one of the actors, I'm surprised. You're probably leaving it for a surprise. I'm going to start off with the comment from Bodo that only I could get away with. I wish I was Italian so I could be more offended by this movie. And you have said before that you're not a big fan of mob movies because you are Italian and you're not fond of the stereotypes.
Right. I think this one's almost making fun of the mob movie itself in a way.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a parody of mob films. But I mean, at least for the beginning, as I said, I said this off air, it kind of grew on me about halfway through. But for the beginning, it's like if Mel Brooks wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I did like the 70s cartoon in the beginning. Whatever happened to those kind of beginnings?
I don't know, but I think they were started with Skidoo. Almost started that way, remember?
Yeah.
And then it like quickly stopped.
Well, it was right. It had a cartoon, and then they halted that. They pulled back to Jackie Gleason watching the news. This played the cartoon through, and then cut to Lyle Stander watching the news. Bodo said, I thought the gangster boss was the butler from Heart to Heart. Eventually realized, it was the butler from Heart to Heart. Lyle Stander.
The cast in this movie is ridiculous.
Robert De Niro, as you mentioned, Jerry Orbach, Lyle Stander.
And the whole story, did you see the story about how they got De Niro and who was originally casted for the role?
I vaguely remember that it was while he was waiting to see if he was cast in The Godfather.
Pacino was
Oh,
originally
I didn't see
supposed to
that.
play this, and then got a role in some movie called The Godfather, which De
Okay.
Niro
Yeah, yeah,
tanked
yeah.
his audition for.
Uh-huh.
So they got De Niro instead, and for this cheap screwball comedy, De Niro took it seriously
Right.
and flew to Italy to spend time with Italians.
And recorded their accents and really learned the
So
accent.
that went all out for this.
And Zero of notoriously is a serious method actor.
Right.
And there's another bit of trivia about that. Because he was playing a thief and he is the quintessential method actor, De Niro allegedly stole 2 shirts from Macy's, hiding them under his jacket. De Niro and Leigh Taylor Young, who played Angela, his girlfriend, were then apparently arrested. Reportedly, producers Robert Chardoff and Irvin Winkler had to intervene and explain to the cops that it wasn't a real theft and kind of smooth things over.
Like she goes on to like do picket fences like decades
Oh
later, of
yeah,
course.
she's had a good career. It's just
Yeah.
kind of under the radar. She's not a huge
Yeah.
name, but she's one of those consistently working actors.
But of course, the centerpiece of the
Oh
cast,
yeah,
Jerry Orbach,
right.
which I mean, he wasn't anything in movies, but for Broadway, there was no bigger
Oh,
actor
okay. I had no
at the
idea.
time.
Hmm.
Like you've heard of the Fantastics, right?
Of course.
It was like it ran like 42 years. It was like insane.
Right, right, right.
He originated the male lead in
Oh
that
God.
in
Okay.
1960.
Okay.
He also originated the male lead in Chicago a few years after this.
Now I'm not a big musical guy. Neither are you. But I can't imagine Jerry Orbach singing. I have to look that up just to
But
see what his singing voice sounds like.
yeah, I mean, he'd won. I'm trying to remember what he won the Tony for a couple of years before this. So I mean, he was pretty much the top Broadway actor and really wanted to get into film and TV. So
He took what
he
he could
said
get.
yes. That's how he got into this
Uh-huh.
mess.
And there's a great conceit, like aside from De Niro stealing everything, that isn't nailed down, which I loved.
Yes.
There's another great conceit that really won me over. There's a newscaster who is basically narrating the film.
Right.
Like as you see the crime boss's wife going out to get try to start his car and all of that at the beginning, he's narrating all of that. There's a bit later where he gives a play-by-play on a raid,
Right.
which I loved. That kind of saved the movie for me. I love that
Yeah,
conceit.
I agree. That raid scene is like the most cynical thing I think I've seen in film
Yeah, yeah.
from this time period, probably even to the 80s. Um, it pretty much said that there are no good guys in this, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the old mob, the new mob, the media
Mhm.
itself, or just treating it like a sporting event. And if
Right,
the mob had any common sense, they would have just seen the fucking raid on TV and wouldn't have just been sitting around, wasting time.
right, right,
And really, the only reason why the raid was taking place was the DA. The DA wanted the mayor off his back.
right, right.
That's the only
And
thing that moved the plot. There really is no other action in the plot
um,
than the DA wants the mayor off his back. That's the entire. I could have used that as the entire plot summary for this film.
mhm. And the scene where they're planning that, the mayor and the DA are having breakfast together, and the mayor pours some kind of booze on his cornflakes, and then pours milk on. I've never been more disgusted.
Although one thing Bodo does nail in his comments was, what if only they had Peter Sellers
Oh yeah, he would have saved it.
in this, because this was kind of a Pink Panther
Oh, absolutely.
type film, and if they could have had Peter Sellers as, say, the mayor or the district attorney or something, this probably would have been a classic.
Now, of course, you're leaving out one of the most important actors in the film,
Oh, there's a lot of important actors in the film, of course, but I think I know who you're going with first.
who I'm surprised you haven't mentioned yet. Hervé Villechaize is one of the gangsters, And they dubbed his voice.
They completely. Sometimes they dubbed it okay. Sometimes
No,
not
no.
so much. Not at
Well,
all.
most of the time when he says something, he's not looking at the camera. There's only a
Right.
few lines where he's actually looking at the camera.
Yeah, the first couple times it happened, I'm like, wait, where's his voice coming from? Wait, oh, that's supposed to be him? And then there were some where he just completely didn't work.
No, no.
And there's a few that were like, oh, that was close.
And whenever you saw his mouth move with the dub, I just heard his actual voice
Yeah.
saying the line. Oh, speaking of the cast, Big Mama, the mother of Sally, Orbach's character, and Angela, the girlfriend, was played by Jill Van Fleet. I can't help wondering if she's related to Greta.
Oh, she didn't sound like Led Zeppelin.
Greta Van Fleet, for those who don't know, is a band who sound strikingly like Led Zeppelin. Now, there is some interesting product placement in the film that Bodo also called out. Was this the first abuse of needlessly advertising Pepsi, TWA, and Winston?
I doubt it.
No. He
I think
opens.
shameful product placement.
Yeah. He opens this. De Niro opens a suitcase in his room, and even before that, well, then you see the big TWA logo. But before then, he's pulling out M&Ms and Juicy Fruit and all of these clearly branded products.
Yeah.
But like I said, I did love the thief angle. And then there's the lion. Why did they get the lion? The young punk and his men get a lion at some point.
But when they got the circus cages.
Oh, okay, because they
got
get
the lion
right.
from that.
They get these circus cages to house the cyclists in. And apparently they got a free lion with them. Bodo said, "Sad thing is, I only cared about the lion," and I kind of agree with them. Though the lion was very well trained.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Like,
completely.
Like, if this wasn't made in 71, I would have thought it was CG, given how close they were getting to him. They were petting him and like getting right up close with him. He climbs up on a counter at one point. They used him to scare the people they're extorting.
Well, I think the point was they were so bad at doing mob activity that they needed a heavy to help them out.
So they used the lion.
So yeah, that heavy was the lion.
There's also another weird little conceit that's only used a couple of times. And Bodo said, it's the thing that made him realize it was a comedy. There are these silent movie era stills that they use as transitions. Just a few times in the movie.
Yeah, it really didn't help with the overall tone of the film, honestly, because it didn't fit.
The tone is literally all over the place.
That's true.
It's slapstick, it's surreal, it's absurdist, it's romantic, it's very dramatic when they're possibly going to cut off De Niro's hand or worse.
Right.
It just, they didn't know what kind of movie they wanted to make.
I think that sums it up perfectly. They needed to stay focused on what they wanted to do. They needed a guy like Mel Brooks to write to do this. Roger
Ebert gave it 2 out of 4 stars, describing maybe part of the trouble is James Goldstone's direction, which tends toward the heavy-handed, and those performances are too broad. The characters are too many. The plot is too indifferent to the structure of the movie, and surprisingly, the movie is too sweet.
Like I said, the plot is pretty much the DA wanted to get the mayor off his back, so he came down on these gangsters. That's his plot, really.
And then a bunch of stereotypes.
Well, right. In the 70s, I think humor was humor, I would say even into the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, Bodo says the last 30 minutes didn't make sense. I don't think most of it made sense.
No.
Like, the romance was about the only part where I saw a through line.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the only, real... You're like, okay, yeah, you could see this happening, kind of. I mean, when some flags go off about a guy stealing all these things and whatnot, but she seemed cool with it because, it's a young Robert De Niro.
And she was raised around the mob, so, probably not a big deal that he's a thief.
That's true.
Like I said, it grew on me halfway through, though. The stealing and the absurdist, the raid bought it like a half a brain. Um, the scene at the end where she lets the lion loose, but at a quarter of a brain.
That was weird. Like, okay, you're just setting the lion loose to run free in the city. What's the
He
worst that could happen?
De Niro gets deported to save her from getting arrested, going to jail. She comes back home. She goes down into the little hangout that they had, and checks on the lion, and she just takes him out, takes him outside, and lets him go. There's a lion loose in New York at the end of this movie.
The only other actor we have not mentioned, a very brief appearance, Mr. Burt Young.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was Happy Death, I think.
Mm-hmm, yes.
What a part of the line of hitmen that, not only fail at their job, but get themselves killed instead of their target.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think with a better director, this
it's
have
a good
worked.
gag. It just didn't play. Voto very aptly described it as raging bullshit. It also raises an interesting question about De Niro. Real hair or a wig?
I would think that was real hair back then.
I would think real hair because it was just kind of long and shaggy.
Yeah.
But there were some times where it looks a little askew. Like it's a wig that's just not on quite right.
I think back then it was probably real.
Yeah. The other thing that bothered a quarter of a brain was the ending. Because it bookends the beginning.
Yeah.
The wife goes out to check the car, and we're just gonna. I don't think this is gonna get the reckless, so I'm just gonna spoil it.
Funny when I was 7.
Yeah.
Funny now.
She goes out to check the car, and it just it explodes.
Well, no. The thing was, she would start the car, the bomb wouldn't go off because but instead they rather than bomb the engine, they bombed the door.
Oh, that's right.
So, because she wouldn't close the door, she would come, start the car. Oh, okay, it's safe. You can come in. Mm-hmm. Close the door for him, and he would drive off.
So that they get both of them right
at the very end.
Or they were
really after him.
Yeah. So they know to get him.
Yeah, they bombed
when
the
she
door
closed the door for him, then the bomb went off. Right. I didn't catch that, but yeah.
Which is why I thought that thing happened, where he, the pattern was established a little better than that.
Right.
Which probably would have been funny, made it funnier if, you saw that a few times.
I would have noticed that, and particularly if they had focused on the fact that it was the door. Yeah. That went completely beyond me. One last comment from Bodo. This movie reminds me of a 70s, 80s NWA with Gordon Soul interrupting the show with some inane updates about something. Referring to the narrator. Again, I loved that gag.
The weird thing about this movie was that the writer is like, this came between Midnight Cowboy and Serpico.
Same writer?
The same writer.
Wow.
They say it's kind of his it's his like odd trilogy about living life in New York in the late 60s.
Okay. Maybe the problem was Breslin's book then?
No, I think it was the director.
Perhaps, yeah.
Because you needed somebody who had more comedic chops to this. So, you knew it was a comedy without having to use the weird 20s placard and music.
Right. On to Brains, because I don't think either of us cares about sequels or remakes for this one.
I could easily see a remake of this with like an actual, comedic cast.
Is it too late, though? I mean, does this kind of comedy still work?
Sure. I mean,
if they lay off the heavy accents, I guess.
The premise of, hitmen failing so badly and getting themselves killed in the job, I think that would be funny to this day.
Right.
The thief, stealing everything that isn't tied down.
And just for good measure, cast the De Niro in Sanders' part as the boss.
You have like you could have like internet involved with the, with the war itself. True. I mean,
instead of a newscaster, have like a YouTuber.
Yeah, or you could set it even in the same time period. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would like to see this done with someone that knew how to direct a
Yeah.
comedy.
Okay, on to Brains.
On the Brains.
They won me over, like I said, halfway through. De Niro stealing everything, the lion getting loose, the narrator. I'm gonna go 3.
I'm going 3 as well. I enjoyed it for the most part, and the parts I didn't enjoy, I was like, had me going, what the fuck? So, I mean, it kept my interest the whole way through. Yeah, just a shame they couldn't have done better
Yeah.
with this cast.
All right, so what have we learned?
We learned that Mama's hard candy solves all problems and is suitable for all occasions.
And I learned a couple of things. I learned that blowing things up is as simple as changing a TV channel. And I also learned that, like goats, lions will eat anything, including money. I seriously doubt a lion would eat anything that isn't meat.
No. In fact, a lot of the money was still there in the scene. I don't know why.
All right, so that's it for the gang that couldn't shoot straight. And once again, for that stylistic whiplash after, like we talked about this week from last week. Until next time, when we'll be reviewing Mandy.
Holy shit. We're going from that.
We went.
Oh
okay. We went from weird, artsy, whatever the lobster was.
Whatever the fuck the lobster was.
Pretentious bullshit. To 70s screwball comedy. To Panos Cosmatos horror. Panos Cosmatos did Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yes.
Very intense, interesting stuff. Very campy. This one features Nick Cage in the lead role.
Right, who, is a logical choice.
And he's due for a good one this decade.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That'll be interesting.
That is so funny. We didn't even plan this.
Until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.